Hey everyone, and welcome to my craft room. My name's Julianne Richards, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in southern Tasmania. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm recording a video for you because I want to release it at a good time. But I'm recording the video today because I want to give you a little look at the New Horizons Designer Series paper and make a couple of cards using that. The simplest cards you've probably even ever seen me make. It's sort of, I feel that I should be adding more to them, but I think they're pretty much perfect the way they are. But I also wanted to give you a sneak peek of my product class for April 2022, which is going to feature this pack of paper here. So rather than my usual product class, I feature a stamp set or a die or a sort of something like that. This time we're going to actually feature the New Horizons paper. So as part of the class, you will purchase a packet, or the class price will include a packet of this paper, plus everything else you need to make the 6 cards. And I've actually got the 6 cards here to show you, so we get that out of the way quickly before we actually start crafting with this paper. So hopefully when you see the cards I've got for you here, you'll see, and then the cards that we make a little bit later on, you'll see that there's so many uses for this paper for quick, easy cards. Now, the 3 cards, or the 3 cards that I will feature in the class, there's this one here, which I think is my favourite. It's actually a bay window card, and I've used this piece of paper here, the very front one, which I think is also my favourite out of the whole pack. It sort of reminds me of some sort of New Zealand scene, maybe Hobbiton or something like that. So it uses this one in a bay window card. And rather than having the interruption of having a stop here, you actually pop to open the card up, you actually fold that little tab in behind the last panel, and you do get a beautiful uninterrupted sort of panorama of that beautiful scene there. So as I say, a bay window card, and you get that beautiful panorama. And I also have used the dies from the Horizons bundle. The die has this beautiful sort of rustic sort of fence happening there, and some grass as well. So to create this, to get this class, you basically will have to just have your own sentiments. So it's a bit like one of my fun fold classes, except it's all using this particular pack of paper. So there will be 2 options for the class. You can buy the full pack of paper with 6 cards, so 2 of each, or you can buy a half pack of paper with just 3 cards, so 1 of each, and the pricing will be released next week as well. The second one is, I thought I'd better get a bit of feminine happening with this card. It's a sort of a gatefold card with a slight difference. It's got this beautiful, gorgeous grape ribbon, and you open it up like this, and it's a bit of a gatefold happening on the inside. But yeah, so that's a really nice one there. So a ribbon stays permanently in place, and you can tie it back up in a bow when you've finished. So there's a fair bit of ribbon in that one, that sort of makes that one a little bit more expensive than the other 2. So what I'll do is, when I put the instructions for this particular class out, you will get to, I'll show you which papers to use and how to, I won't bother doing that at the moment, and how to cut them to make the cards. And the third one is this one, sort of a little portrait card with another sheet of the paper, and some sort of vellum behind it as well, which technique I'm going to be using today as well. So like that one as well, sort of very sort of almost alpine sort of sunset sort of look happening with this one as well. So that's the 3rd card. So as I say, full class, you get a full pack of paper and 6 cards, so 2 each of each design that you can make. A half colour class, you'll get 3 cards and half a pack of paper. So you will use your own paper in the class. So the New Horizons paper is nice. On one side of each, you do have the sort of the horizon scene, the landscape scene, including my favourite at the front. And the other side tends to be more of a sort of just a marble sort of look, or sort of paper with just all the colours in the sort of a marble. This one actually looks like a starry night to me, sort of like the clear starry night when all the Milky Way is showing. But anyway, so that's that. Okay, so that's probably enough promotion for the moment. But as I say, watch my Facebook page and you will see those cards, that class advertised next week. once I finish getting my current class out of the way, which has been very, very popular. Okay, I'm going to do 2 cards today. So as I say, if you're sort of thinking to yourself, oh, well, I like those, but I'm sure I can't use the rest of the pack, I just want to show you some of the other cards you can make with that New Horizons designer series paper. In this case, I've used the dies as well. I didn't actually buy the stamp set of this one. I'm trying to be a little bit exclusive about what I buy because I'm sort of left my job and don't have an income to speak, so I have to be a little bit careful about what I buy. And in this case, I thought the paper and the dies were perfect, but I thought I could probably live without the stamp set, but I'm sort of regretting that now. I might have to buy it anyway. Anyway, so this is our first card. I've just done this one as a card front because I wasn't quite sure I was going to like it, but this one first. We'll make this one first, and then I'll bring in the second one. You can see what we do. So this one is really nice. We've got sort of one of the landscapey scenes there. We've got the little half of the little fence and the grass there as well. And the sentiment has been stamped straight onto the designer series paper. So as I say, it's a very simple design. So I've got a card base here. I've actually gone for a portrait card, as you can see. 4 1/8 by 11, and it's scored at the middle to give a 5.5. Yeah, a 5.5 high card. Then I've got a panel of Evening Evergreen. It sort of loses its colour up against my background there. So it's Evening Evergreen, and I've popped that through one of my favourite designer embossing folders with this sort of natural look. It's the bark in embossing folder. So it's really nice, and it gives it that sort of, so I mean, we've got landscapes and things, so it seems like the bark off a tree is probably an appropriate backing to have. And that's a 1/4 inch smaller, so that would be 3 7/8 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to pop that straight there. Then I've cut myself a piece of the designer series paper. So I'll grab out the one that I've actually used here, and you can see you'd actually get 2. I've kept the insert of designer series paper to 3 inches wide. So out of a 6-inch wide piece of designer series paper, which is this one here, you'd actually get the 2 cards. So you could make 2 with the 1 piece of paper. So you can see this one. Oh, and there goes all my bits. And this one, I've used the left-hand half of the piece of paper. And this other one, the second one I'm going to show you today, has actually got the right-hand half. So, and you do cut the top and the bottom off as well. So you can see, to make it fit, I've actually cut a piece off the bottom and a piece off the top. But we have actually used those to do some die cutting, so nothing is wasted as such. So really, there's not much to it from here. I'm just going to basically attach our embossed panel. You might want to use double-sided tape for this one because it's a really heavily embossed design, which makes it lovely, but does mean you need a fair bit of glue to make it stick, but that seems to be okay there. So you can see we've got that quite large white boundary around it. Then I'm going to bring in my little piece of designer series paper. I'm just going to pop that straight in the middle. So I'll pop all the measurements and everything in my on my website. So just watch the description of this video. The link will be there to take you through to the measurements and the product list. Okay, so we've got that. Very, very simple. I think these are lovely just sort of plain little cards when you don't want to go too over the top. You just want something that's sort of heartfelt and classic. So I'm going to stamp this one straight away. I've got my Evening Evergreen ink, and I've got the Thinking of You, which I absolutely adore. That's from the Quiet Meadow stamp set, which I'm pleased to say is actually continuing in the next catalogue. I probably should have stamped that before I glued it to the bark embossed panel, but hopefully it will stamp okay. If I don't, yeah, that's okay. I don't think I've got my sticker on that stamp set particularly straight, because I think it's straight when I look at it and it's slightly off, but that's okay. That's the joy of handmade. So as I say, I've just put that sentiment straight onto the onto the designer series paper. Then the last bit for this is I've got a little, this is from the dies. This is our little wooden fence. So it's just, this is early espresso cardstock. So just a nice plain wooden fence. And I don't know if you can see whether the light will catch it, but I have actually popped that. I've die cut it. Yes, you can see the ridges on it there. I've die cut it first, and then I've actually popped the fence through the bark embossing folder as well. And that gives it sort of like an old sort of rustic sort of broken down sort of fence look, because obviously it looks like it's been here for 100 years. So I'm just going to pop that with some glue onto the scene. So I'm sort of placing it so that it looks like it's sort of just coming off the front of the scene and headed off into the background. Just like that. And somebody's just knocked at the front door, so I hope it's nothing that, I think it's probably a delivery. So there we are. So there's our little fence there headed off into the distance. And this is what I said about using the bit that we chopped off the top and the bottom of the designer series paper. This little grassy knoll is also from the dies, and I've just flipped that paper over. If I can find the paper, yeah. So flipped it over and used the green from that, which I think would be a sort of evening evergreen sort of tone colour. So the bit that we trimmed off the top and bottom, I've just cut the leaves out of. You can see that's the same on the first card as well. So just a wee bit of glue, don't have to go too mad, and bring our little tufty grass off, starting at the left and headed off to the right. And it just sort of nestles in over the top of our sentiment quite nicely there. So there we are. I can actually prefer the right-hand side of that paper a bit more than the left-hand side, because it sort of looks a bit more like there's trees and things off there in the distance that's sort of obscured by mist and stuff. So there we are. So that's the two cards there. I hope you can see. You can't quite see the detail as well as you would help on the film, I don't think, but the atmosphere and the texture of that embossing folder really makes it something special. If you had a stamp that had some birds or something, you could pop them in the sky, but really I honestly don't think it needs much more than that. For a simple sort of sympathy or something like that, I think it's probably just lovely plain the way it is. So there we are. As I say, the 3-inch wide panels of the designer series paper mean that you get those two cards out of the one piece of paper, which is sometimes a little bit tricky with a 6x6 designer series paper. So that's our first one. I think that's probably up there as my favourite. This one I wanted to try and be a little bit different with. So this is the one I'm going to show you next. Again, another one of these lovely landscapes. I've cut it, I've broken it up a bit with some stitched rectangles. So layering a stitched rectangle there with the designer series paper sort of looking continuous across the way there. So that one's there. That's quite nice as well. So I'll just show you how I've made this one. So thankfully we get to bring out our Blackberry Bliss, one of my favourite colours. So it's a Blackberry Bliss card base. It's 5.5 by 4, what would be 8 1/4, so 4 1/8 high. So it's going to be a landscape card, this one, so look at keeping it that way. Then what I've done is I've grabbed my stitched rectangles and a piece of the designer series paper. So this time you don't get the luxury of getting 2 cards per sheet. I'll try and find the one I've used. Hopefully I haven't used it all. That one would be a good one to use it for as well, I think. That one would be a good one. It's not the one I've used here. Try and find it. Hopefully haven't used it all. That's the one we use. This one here. Okay, so basically I've grabbed my rectangle dies, and the biggest die, I won't cut another one. The biggest rectangle die is this beauty here, and it fits. If you pop it here on top, it fits pretty much perfectly on that card base that I've cut. So all I've done is decide which part of the scene I like the best, which happens to be the very top left-hand corner. So I like that part of it. So where you've got the sort of the background coming down into the sort of hill behind, and the sort of sea and the waves in front, if that's what you can get out of that. It's a bit like one of those ink blog tests. It depends what you bring to it as to what you see. So I've cut that big one out of, get rid of those, cut that big scene out of this big stitched rectangle. So if you think of that without the hole in it, that's been cut there. So then, once I've got that, bring back the smaller stitched dies. So I'll have to tell you which one it is. I think it's the 4th and the 5th. So if that's the biggest is number 1, I then use number 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I've got another panel of Blackberry Bliss, which I've used the 4th largest. So that's been cut from that. And then from the existing panel of cardstock, I've cut straight from the very middle. So line it up with the very middle of the cardstock you've just cut, and cut the next one down, the 5th smallest, the next smallest down. So you get that. So that's been taken out of the center of that cardstock. So number 1 for the biggest, and then number 4 with the Blackberry Bliss, and then number 5 for the out of the middle of the cardstock, if that's what makes it easier for you. Pop all that over there. Then I have, just to break up the scene a little bit, a piece of vellum, just plain vellum, and that has been cut to 4.5 by 3.25, and that's going to pop in between there just to break that up a wee bit. I hadn't actually done that on the original one. I just thought it would be nice when I saw it finished. So our frame, I suppose we call this a frame, pops straight onto our Blackberry Bliss. And that leaves pretty much the perfect border all the way around the outside. Just like that. I'm going to remember to stamp this one before I go any further. I'm going to use my Blackberry Bliss because that seems to be the fundamental colour. It's nice and dark. Get my thinking of you again, because I think it fits this. And I'm going to, just where that sort of lighter green is, that's where I'm going to stamp my sentiment. There we are. There we are. And I'm going to pop that onto the stitched rectangle of the Blackberry Bliss, which we've designed to be one size bigger. And that fits in pretty nicely. Same sort of gap around the edge as we had on our original card, which fits in really nicely. So we'll pop that there. Before we put this on there, I'm going to pop this piece of vellum on it, which we mentioned was 3.25 by 4.5. And because I'm going to be covering over that central gap, I don't mind too much about seeing glue, so I'm just going to pop the glue all in the middle there. Line that up. Do have to be careful, as I think I've mentioned in previous videos, be careful how you attach vellum, because once you can see the glue, as you can see there, you can see the glue through. I think it fades a fair bit when it dries, but it's never purely completely transparent. Okay, so we've got that piece of vellum on there. I'm going to grab some dimensionals and pop this on with dimensionals just to give it a bit of height. And then lining up the sort of the scene in the front panel with the scene behind, if that makes sense. So you've got the water sort of forming a direct line from the backing to the front, but at the same time lining it up so it's the even distance all around with the vellum as well. And there we have this little one. So you can see the vellum sort of doesn't completely obscure the background, but it brings the foreground more into notice. So that's that there. Then some sort of bling, some sort of dimensionals. I didn't want to go. Seems sort of against the feeling of the card to go sort of too bright and what's the word, sort of gaudy with the bling. So I just thought the matte black dots would be good. Haven't sort of worked out where to put them. I wonder whether maybe here. I'll put them in a straight line down the side or across the top. No, down the side, I think. Just again, more of just something to add interest to the card. Add a little bit of eye, something to attract the eye. There we are. So that's this one. As I say, two of probably the most simple cards I have done for you of late, but by no means not beautiful. Just as beautiful as anything, I think. There we are. So that's the cards with the 3 cards there with the or 4 if you count the 4. There's the 4 that I've made with these ones with 1 sheet of the New Horizons paper, and these have got 1 sheet each. There's obviously some paper around the edge that you could use for other things. What's the other side of this one look like? It's a misty moonlight, so you could obviously use that for something else on another card, a strip of it or something like that. Oh, I've got a central panel here for the Blackberry Bliss card, and then that will be done. Okay, so hopefully I've got you thinking there of other things that you can do with the New Horizons paper if you buy it either separately or if you buy it as part of the class. The pricing, as I say, will include either a whole or half pack of the paper plus the rest of the cardstock to make the cards that I showed you before, so the cards from the class. Also, we'll have discounts if you buy the bundle or the dies as part of the month's celebration of the New Horizons bundle. As I say, there's the dies that have the little fence and the grass and various other bits and bobs as well, and the stamp set, which I don't actually have, but am seriously contemplating. Okay, so there's the cards for today. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully, as I say, you will keep an eye out for my New Horizons class in the next week or so on my Facebook page with the full pricing and details there. So there we are. So thanks very much for joining me for this little quick video, and I hope to see you all again next weekend. Okay, bye.